always going to be difficult when you're looking at two people very, very different. And I don't think there would ever be any sort of coming together like with tag team moves or anything like that, or double team combinations, because there wouldn't be much chemistry there at all, I imagine, because it's just too much like chalk and cheeks to me.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I mean, I just, for some reason, when I think of Shamrock and Bossman together, I kind of thought they were together a lot longer than what they, as a tag team, but clearly not at that point. So it just must have been my memory at that point. Matt, how kind of odd is this? Fun fact, I guess, kind of disturbing in other ways, I suppose, but. It's reported here by Dave Meltzer that Val Venus did a shower scene with Shamrock's sister, who they are naming Ryan. Shamrock actually has a son at this point by the name of Ryan. I mean, honestly, who on earth, talk about close to home there on that one. I don't know why they did that. Maybe, I'm not sure. Maybe they were trying to think, if people look them up, there is some relation, and maybe they'll put two and two together. I have no idea. But slightly disturbing there. Venus wrestled Test, but Shamrock cracked a chair on him to lead the meltdown for the pin. Billy Gunn made the save, but Venus took out Gunn by hitting him with the chair. Venus attacked him back. So at this point, they're kind of intertwined. There's going to be a setup here for at least 3 guys to be going into WrestleMania. That's what's kind of penciled in for the Intercontinental belt. But obviously, the main bulk of this match, it's not really about the belt. It's the whole Ryan Shamrock thing, and that's what's keeping this stuff together, I suppose. Fun fact here as well for you guys at this point. With the success of the last TV Guide wrestling cover, which sold 300,000 more copies than their average, they are looking to be doing another 4 cover set in March to push for WrestleMania, which obviously is going to be a big deal. House shows around this time sees Ken Shamrock beating Billy Gunn only by DQ though, and WWF preliminary reports indicate that the Royal Rumble did a 1.57 buy rate, which would be a 6.95 million show. It would be the biggest Rumble as far as buys are concerned in history, and in the same ballpark as SummerSlam last year, WCW's Bash at the Beach, which featured heavily Rodman and the Malone deal. So that was quite a successful Royal Rumble there, Matt. And we did say how popular things were getting. When we just to talk about the Attitude Era in general here, while we're in this timeline, Matt, I know that when we were watching the Attitude, live and in person as fans, obviously we at the time you don't know how good this actually is until you kind of where we are now, and we look back at it very fondly. But why? It was. Do you remember just getting so excited for this stuff? On every it was the must see TV that they keep saying that it is today. But I kind of feel when I don't know if it was because I was younger or what, but I kind of feel like it really was must see back then. You really didn't know what the hell was going to happen on Raw because there were so many different things going on. But it seemed like it was more of a TV show in the sense that they always kind of left you on a cliffhanger and you couldn't wait to see the next week. Whereas I come off of Raw nowadays and it's a completely different feeling. I kind of keep them all as separate shows. What was your experience at this time as a fan watching the product, Matt?
Yeah, I think it was an incredible time to be a fan. I do remember, it was one of those shows where you had to see it week in, week out, because the speed the shows were moving was just so rapid. A character could be a good guy one week and then, do a heel turn the next, and it would just change everything. And, if you were talking to your friends and they knew about it before you did, you kind of felt bad because you really wanted to be part of the conversation. And and talk about it, because everyone just seemed to be talking about it back then. And I really do miss that, when you can just bump into anybody and just start talking about wrestling, because it was that mainstream that everybody knew the top kind of 10 wrestlers, and like, everyone had an opinion on them.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I mentioned this last time on part 2 of Ken Shamrock. WWF got a lot of attention for the Super Bowl spot. This was the commercial that they paid a lot of money to get in the Super Bowl, which was featured on USA Today. And wouldn't you know, it was a full-page ad on the paper as well. According to the various stories, WWF claimed to have gotten its Super Bowl ad well below the 1.6 million per 30-second spot rate. Now, I mean, that's quite a lot of money in itself there, Matt, but obviously, you know the amount of people that are going to be watching it, so, you know, it's got to make some sort of sense. But here's an interesting fact about that. The stuntman, Mike Jones, who was shot out of the window of Titan Towers, suffered a sprained knee, and actually had done the stunt on a broken back. On a broken back, suffered in a different stunt 3 weeks earlier. WWF pinned a totally misleading graphic from the first to the second USA Today, declaring the commercial was a big hit and the highest rated commercial. It had now I think this commercial, Matt, is the one where, you know, they're in the offices at Titan Towers, and they're at WWE headquarters as we now know it, and they're kind of like, you see everybody's like fighting everybody inside. There's chair shots. There's the Undertaker. Sable comes out. Do you know the commercial I'm talking about here, Matt?
Yeah, it used to be on before most of the VHS tapes as well.
Yeah, it was always pretty much played. I mean, it was a very, very successful commercial. Like, you don't see WWE today like with those kind of really good creative kind of concepts, but that commercial, I really remember that now, and I kind of forgot about it, to be honest with you, but that was such a big part of what that, I mean, it really did. It was so transparent with what the product was. Like, I don't, you know, it was definitely what was going on at the time, and it was really well done, really, really well produced. Obviously, the poor stuntman himself probably got a little bit hurt in the process, but it was a great advert. I mean, probably one of the best they've ever done, if not the best, I would say. In fact, for that time. So yeah, certainly that went down very, very well at the Super Bowl. And they done a very good job there on that one. More news here on Dan Severn. Definitely a regular keep here that we've had on our Ken Shamrock timeline. Dan Severn is on his way out though now. Severn was given a series of options. It was suggested that he do a shoot fight with Steve Blackman, which makes no sense in the confines of the WWF, which he didn't want to do because they were friends. So that was never going to be that was never going to happen. He was given the option but signing a contract release where they would give him up a severance check as a buyout, or he could just remain as under contract for the next year plus until it expires. But he'd jobbed out by this time as of right now, and so he ended up just going altogether, Matt. Just to end on Dan Severn, because we have mentioned him here, because again I'm not really sure we'll cover Dan Severn all that much in anyone else's timelines, but Severn's running WWF wasn't ever a real success at all, Matt. Any real sum ups on him, how that all went down, and how we'll remember Dan Severn's short, but all that kind of negotiating for this guy, but never really seemed like they really had no ideas, and I'm not sure who wanted him so bad, but honestly, it didn't ever look like it was going to go anywhere, did it, with Severn, even in a character form?
No, it's a bit of a shame, really, because when you look at the success that Shamrock had in wrestling, and the belief that they must have had in Dan Severn to try so hard to sign him and actually get him, and then still stick at it for quite a time when things really didn't seem to be going that great for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big mystery to me, but I think his legacy is already being told now, because I think a lot of people don't actually realise that he was part of WWE. A lot of the time now, when people talk about him, like Dan Severn, of course, the UFC guy, but then I guess he's kind of fading from the history books in WWE into obscurity.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Well, during this period in February, basically there's the whole Ryan Shamrock stuff going on with Val Venus, and Ken Shamrock's kind of coming out, putting his boot in, getting very annoyed at the whole thing. Okay, so I want to bring us up now to St. Valentine's Day Massacre. I'm sure you remember that one, Matt. Of course, that finished with Paul White making his debut that night. But on this show, at number 5 on the card is the Intercontinental Championship match between Ken Shamrock and Val Venus, which would see Val Venus become the new Intercontinental Champion that night, with Billy Gunn as the referee that night, by the way, in a match that went just under 16 minutes. Wasn't rated that well by Meltzer at the time. They definitely didn't see too much in this one. The way this all ended, Shamrock and Gunn brawled on the aisle after the match was done. Shamrock disappeared. Gunn then attacked Venus for no apparent reason, reports Meltzer. Again, there was this whole... Obviously, Ryan Shamrock was out there, and interestingly enough, Meltzer reports that Ryan Shamrock pulled Venus to the ropes for the break. Shamrock, who was using the dreaded F word, was being told by the referee not to keep saying it. Yelled at Ryan, who appeared froze and forgot her spot, and Ken told her loud enough to be picked up to slap him. Which she did. So obviously there were some spots during the match that didn't go down too well. I have not revisited that match, but now I've read this, I may have to go back and watch it on the network, just because it sounded like there was a bit of a confusing ending on this whole thing about who was doing what. And maybe this is what WWF get for hiring somebody that's not kind of WWF savvy, like the person that played Ryan Shamrock here. But seems very interesting. Matt, obviously Val Venus goes over here. The Intercontinental belt is lost from Shamrock, and it's another title lost within the space of the same about 4 or 5 weeks here of losing the tag team titles. At this point, was that a big deal, or do you think this it was kind of a way of getting Shamrock away from the Intercontinental belt for a little while and maybe pushing up onwards and upwards?
It's difficult to say really, because I did kind of like Shamrock at the Intercontinental level. Of course he was capable of more than that, but I think when they weren't giving him all that much story-wise, holding on to that was doing him a great deal of good. So I can't see why taking it off of him, giving it to someone like Val Venus would necessarily help Val Venus more. I think Shamrock's character was much more stronger and would have definitely benefited a lot more from keeping that belt. Yeah.
The Raw after St. Valentine's Massacre sets up a 3-way for the Intercontinental Championship with Venus, Shamrock and Goldust. Wound up with Shamrock and Goldust both being counted out after just 3 minutes 30 seconds when Shamrock went berserk seeing Goldust kissing, yep, you guessed it, Ryan Shamrock. Meltzer reports, I hate to say it, but Ryan must be a slut. That's where she is at this point. That's the character she's got. Then Meltzer reports Billy Gunn ran out and attacked Venus and posted him after the match. They said Billy couldn't wrestle due to fluid in his lungs, which may have been close to real since he had missed the entire weekend. So obviously Billy Gunn wasn't well on that one. But they are now toying with the idea, Matt, of a kind of 4-way match at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental belt. I've got to say, I mean, I don't know what it was. I don't know why I liked it, but I kind of remember watching this, and I was kind of like, not for the whole Ryan Shamrock stuff, but I liked the interweaving of these four guys. You know, Goldust, Val Venus, Shamrock, and Billy Gunn. Like, they were really established characters at this point, and they were. I mean, even Val Venus was over with the fans. Like,